Welcome to the Porn Reboot podcast, where you get practical tips to gaining control over your porn or sex addiction. We help ambitious men end their out-of-control sexual behavior with pornography, sex, and masturbation so that you can maximize your life, perform at your potential, and remain in control in the driver's seat, which is where you have to be in order to gain or maintain the success you want in life. I'm your host, J.K. Emezi, certified sex and porn addiction recovery coach. Welcome to the episode.
Brother, just a heads up, this particular episode is a little bit different from the others. It's more of an informational episode, like a public service announcement of a change that has happened in the program. So if you have never been interested in being a part of the program, and if you're just here to learn more about how to end your out-of-control behavior, feel free to skip this one. Please don't use it as the standard of the program. JK just gives informational stuff about updates about his program. No, this is just a little bit of an informational piece. Let's get into it. Have you ever wanted the assurance that somebody had your back? Ever wanted the assurance that somebody was going to be there with you and for you, supporting you until you accomplish the goal that you're going to accomplish? I mean, people get married. I'm in a relationship, and one of the things I love about my relationship is that there is a feeling it gives me that the person that I'm with is going to be with me through thick and thin. And when you're with somebody and you experience hardship or adversity and you see that they are able to weather it with you, it gives you a lot of confidence. Whether it is your child supporting you, if you've got a more grown child, somebody you work with, your boss, your manager, an employee, sticking it out with you through a tough time, it doesn't matter who it is. It makes us feel good. And when, let's say, our spouse, our partner, our kid, whoever it is, an employee, a business partner, a manager, or a boss, is wishy-washy about it, or when you're uncertain that they are there with you all the way, that is some sort of transactional relationship. If you're just like, man, if I have PIED and I'm not able to have sex with my wife, is she going to leave me? Or is she going to be the sort of person who would be patient enough to stick it out? If I had a mental health issue or struggled psychologically, would this person be there for me? If I hit a rough patch at work and I've always been a great performer, would my manager be patient enough to actually care about, hey, what's going on in your life, man? Like, usually you're better than this. What's going on? Okay, cool. Why did you take some time off and come back? Or would they make it a transactional thing and go like, listen, this is a business and you got to leave your shit at the door. And if you're not able to perform, we got to let you go. All of these things can bring up a lot of distress for us. And early last year in 2024, I mentioned that it was going to be my last year group coaching. And that is something that has happened. I have moved on. The only place I speak to group of men is in the intensive program, which is what I'm going to talk about today. This is important. And I now offer mentorship in our mentorship program for men who are in their 20s and 30s, who are just stuck, who just don't know where to go. And if you've been stuck for a couple of years, that's mentorship, completely different thing. I made the assertion, I said, I'm not going to be doing group coaching anymore. However, and I'm not going back on that, I've stopped group coaching in all my other programs. At the end of the year, I had such a great experience with the men in the intensive program. It's a more intimate group. There's a lot of trust built there. It's just a different breed of man that's in there. Not a better breed of man, just a different type of man that's in there. And the men I work closely with. And I realized that a lot of men in that group had put a lot of trust in the system. A lot of trust in the system, a lot of resources, financial and otherwise. And there is no way that I was going to, this is a personal JK thing, there was no way that I was going to move away from that group until everybody who had joined that group when I was a coach had either achieved the definition of their reboot or had reached the maintenance stage of their reboot, which effectively means that they had rebooted. And so I made a promise in 2025 that for the intensive group only, I was going to work with everybody who was in the group up till 2024, one-on-one. That means more one-on-one sessions, more time working with them, bringing in more experts, doing whatever it took in 2025 till every single person who was in the group in 2024 had reached the maintenance stage. That is the promise that I have made to the group. And I want to say it here publicly because it's one thing to say it to the group and it's another thing to make the public statement. That way, I'm held accountable to it. That's literally what we do. And when somebody joins the program, they make a statement of their Reboot commitment, and you got to put it out there. You got to send it to your Reboot strategist, and you've got to show up to the group, and you've got to put it out there. Now, you will not see me doing group coaching in any other programs. There is just my mentorship, which is just me sharing how I would do things. And the only other place that I'm working with men is within the intensive program. But what does that mean for you? Why am I sharing that with you? Just my JK's assertion? No. What it means is that if you were considering becoming a part of the intensive program, now would be the time to do so. Now, I'll be direct. When I say something, I actually do mean it. The promise was made to the men who were there up till 2004 and before that. I will follow through on that. But if you want to be a part of that energy, and the intensive group, the energy of that group is created by the men in those groups. It is created by their commitment, by their willingness to be vulnerable, by their commitment to the system. If you want to be a part of the energy of men who are there to get to a very specific place in 2025, now would be the time to do so. I will, of course, work with you my hope is to work with you till you get to the maintenance stage of definition of your reboot. But if you, joining in 2025, don't get there, don't get to the definition of your reboot or the maintenance stage of your reboot in 2025, that's not the end of the world. The programs are not going anywhere. We have coaches in training. We have very experienced coaches. We have our reboot heroes who are also coaches. Orestes, Chris, Dr. Rankin is still there. Coach Milan is still there. Dr. Eastman is there doing phenomenal work, and we have a lot of other experts coming in. You're still going to reboot, but it's going to still take about that 1.5 to 2 years that it takes to rewire your brain. You shouldn't hesitate because I am going all out in group. We have new modules that are going to be coming out. And when I say new modules, I'd like to specify something. Modules are not things that are pulled out of my ass. Excuse my language. Modules are things that when experienced men in the group, we're going through a session and everybody resonates with that topic. Like everybody, there could be 19, 22 men in the group session at that point. They're like, whoa, yo, are we all on the same frequency right now? Like this is the same problem. It's never been addressed in all these years. Then we will create a module. And I will tell you this, every year with D2 group coaching sessions over the years, there's usually only 1 or 2 new modules that need to be created. It is very rare to have all these things. And I'm not a fan of just creating modules that are useless. Like, this is just some information. It needs to be something that inspires you. It's so relevant to you that you will take action on it immediately. So we have new modules coming out because the group has been working so closely. They've been opening up so much that now for men who are in the late and maintenance stage, we are discovering new things that we need to kind of dive into. So I'm excited to bring a new level of learning, a new level of accountability. That's what's happening on my part. I'm being more accountable, and a new level of depth to the intensive program. And I would love for you to be a part of that. For the men, if you were ever in our program in the past, I had sent out a message to a few men. Some of you may not have gotten the message because I am a prolific emailer, but we do have something called the Reboot Refresher. It is not for everybody. I invited back very specific men from the implementation and the intensive program based on your file, who I feel were not in the late or maintenance stage before you left the program. Sometimes you left the program because you felt you were good. Other times you left the program because you couldn't afford it or something else happened in your life that sidetracked you. The Reboot Refresher is an opportunity for you to rejoin the program at a very affordable rate and get to the late or the maintenance stage. Now, if you did not receive a message on that, don't worry about it. And if you're curious, feel free to reach out to us. Send an email to jkemezi@elevatedrecovery.org and ask about Reboot Refresher. If I don't think you are a good fit for it, I will tell you. There were a lot of men who their friends or former accountability partners said, hey, JK sent me this. Did you get it? For those of you who feel a little bit like offended, like, whoa, JK, you didn't like, quote unquote, invite me back or anything like that. I don't mean it to be disrespectful, but there were certain criteria. Again, this is not financial criteria. I just want to make it clear. There were certain criteria because we are curating a certain type of community. There's certain criteria that we were looking for in the men that we invited back. But if you've been thinking about it and for some reason you're just like, I don't know. I just didn't think of it. I just haven't felt motivated to like reach out. In the subject line, just put Reboot Refresher and let's have a conversation. And when I say us, anything that says Reboot Refresher is something I personally read. Nobody else is reading it. I'm the one reading it because you have already invested in our program in the past. And I would love to have a conversation with you. And if you're just like, straight up, bro, why don't you want me to come back? I'll tell you why. Because we keep a file on every single person who's in the program. I may also have missed some of you. We literally have worked with thousands of men. So sometimes we don't have everybody's information in our database, and sometimes due to privacy reasons, some of you did not use your real phone number or your real email address because you wanted it to be private. So you don't receive our emails, or you never check that email again because you only used it for rebooting and recovery, but you still listen to the podcast. So if you did not receive one of those and you're like, whoa, so there's a way to like do this at an affordable rate? Yes, there absolutely is. And moving on from the program, which is what's going to be happening, I am stepping onto a more global stage with this to spread the message, bring more awareness, and bring more healing. It is not enough. What we're doing here in small groups is not enough. I'm getting older. I'm 40 years old, going to be 41 this year. I want to make sure, not as a legacy, but I want to make sure that as many people as possible are aware that you can be free from this behavior, and it doesn't have to be a life sentence. It doesn't have to be something that you live in shame with. And that is the only reason that I'm moving on from coaching. So this is my last year of working with only individuals in the intensive program, nowhere else, okay? Those of you in the implementation who are freaking out, like, good JK, I'm not going to have access to, I still come in there. I'll still do Q&As here and there. I'll still respond to you. I still want to make sure you guys are doing things right. And the system still works. There are men who are rebooting who have never spoken to me. And here's the crazy thing, who have never even heard me speak, but went through the implementation program. By speak, I mean they've never heard me speak live. And they have successfully rebooted. We literally just had 2 success stories yesterday from men who had been in the program for like 2 years. And one of them, I've never seen this guy on any of my lives, but I've responded to him in comments. So, I mean, you can hear me smiling, I think, in saying this because I think it's pretty phenomenal that men will go through a program, use the system without having to speak to the person who created it. And to be fair, I didn't really create it. To be fair, it was started by me, iterated because of the men who trusted the program and who contributed to it through their experiences. For you to be able to go through that and end your behavior and move on is a beautiful thing. I really wish most programs could be like that, where you could come in and it is set up in such a way that is so effective that you pretty much get the guaranteed result and you move on. Anyway, I digress. Reach out to us if you would like to be a part of that in 2025. My last year of doing this in this format as a coach, I want to get you as far as you can. And I will see you, hopefully, in the intensive program. Take care.
I'm JK, your brother in this struggle. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Porn Reboot podcast. I'll speak to you later on in the week. If you found this episode helpful, here are 4 ways I can help you with your out-of-control sexual behavior for free. The first way is to grab a free copy of my book, Confessions of a Porn Addict, 7 Secrets of Porn-Free Men at elevatedrecovery.org, or visit the link in the description below this episode. The second way is, if you're not sure where to start, but you'd like to learn more about my team and I, if you'd like to spend time with like-minded professionals and business owners who are controlling their behavior, then join our free and confidential group, the Porn Reboot Group on Facebook. There's a link to join in the description below this episode. The third way is if you need help right now because you have a burning issue, your behavior with pornography is hurting you mentally or emotionally, you're about to lose your relationship, You want to live up to your potential, be an authentic man, and free yourself from shame, guilt, and underachieving? Then click on the link in the description below this episode that says free coaching call. And the fourth way is to leave us a 5-star review if you enjoy this podcast, so that we can reach more men who are struggling in silence and bring back the lessons we learn from coaching them to freedom.